Hello and good morning, friends. Welcome to the CEC-UGC live lecture. Dear friends, with the new year wishes, we pledge that we would fulfill our objective of imparting higher education to you, and with this objective we would like to take our lecture forward. Dear friends, in this session today we would be discussing on an very interesting topic, and the topic is thinking and reasoning. You might have heard, you might have used this term number of times. In fact, I would say if I talk about thinking and reasoning, these are two independent terms. These two terms have independent meanings, but in some way or the another, these two terms have interdependence. That is, thinking depends on reasoning and reasoning depends on thinking. How thinking and reasoning are interdependent on each other? Dear friends, we would try to find this the answer of this very question in today's discussion. Also, we would be discussing on what teachers could do so that the thinking ability of the children could enhance. If the thinking ability of the students enhances, then ultimately there is a path one could see for the reasoning. One who can think, one can answer, one can question, one can know the different things around him or her. So dear friends, I would like to tell you all that for this very discussion on thinking and reasoning, we have with us in our studios once again Dr. Mrs. Parveen Sharma. Dr. Sharma, she is an associate professor in Hindu College of Education, Sonipat, and she has almost 29 years of teaching experience. Her number of books as well as various articles have been published in various journals, that is both in national and international level, as well as I would like to tell you all that under her able guidance, lots of students have been awarded with the PhD degrees, and she have been the resource persons to the various organizations and the institutions, and have been attending and participating various seminars and conferences. So dear friends, without wasting any time, I would like to welcome our guest, Dr. Parveen Sharma, under whose able guidance we are going to understand the topic thinking and reasoning. So ma'am, welcome to the EduSet lecture, and heartiest greetings to you on this very special day of the year, that is the new year.
Thank you, Geetika ji. I must wish from my side Happy New Year to you and to my viewers and listeners. Good morning, viewers and listeners. I wish a Happy New Year to all of you. In this session, we will be discussing about thinking and reasoning. What is thinking? What is reasoning? How they are interdependent on each other? What can be the contribution of the parents and the teachers as well to promote thinking skill among the students, among the children, and as well as on the part of the students, part of the children, how they must develop their thinking skill so they can live a successful and happy life. You know, man is called a rational animals because most of the activities we do are common to animals, like sleeping, eating, drinking, excretion of waste materials. How we are differentiated from animals? Man has been endowed with the greatest power of thinking by God. This is God's greatest gift to the human beings. So man as well as women, human being can decide by using thinking skills what is right and what is wrong, what we should do and what we should not do. स्वाभाविक है कि जीवन है तो समस्याओं का आना स्वाभाविक है. So how one can use the thinking and reasoning skill and solve the problems which come across. Problems never ends. जब तक सांस है समस्याएं चलती रहती हैं. केवल बदलता है तो समस्याओं की टाइप्स बदलती है. So my dear friends, viewers and listeners, we will be discussing regarding the thinking skill and reasoning skill and how to solve them, because your parents, your teachers cannot hold your fingers all the time in the path of life to tell you you should do this, you should not do this. Rather, they are supposed to make you able to discriminate between right and wrong and what path we should select. So this way we will be taking independently what is thinking in the beginning. Let us see what is thinking. See, first of all, in this picture I have tried to show what is thinking skill, how the process in our mind starts of thinking. Let me explain what is meaning of thinking. Man is rational being. His rationality consists in his ability to think and reason. Ability to think and reason clearly is necessary to successful living. Those human beings who have developed this ability are among the most efficient and respected in life. Those human beings who surpass others in art, literature, philosophy, industry, agriculture and law are above average in their ability to think and reason effectively. The progress of individual as well as of society depends upon the human tendency to think and reason effectively. The uplift of humanity lies in developing the capacity of men for free and independent thinking and reasoning. What is thinking? Let us discuss thinking. Like perceiving and remembering is a cognitive process. It however depends both on perception and the memory of the material. How we can define this thinking? According to Ross, thinking is mental activity in its cognitive aspect, whereas the greatest psychologist Kolesnik says thinking is the reorganization of concepts, meaning by Kolesnik wanted to explain that whenever the concepts are there in the mind, we try to reorganize those concepts so that we can move ahead and we can solve the problems. And according to Woodworth, thinking is mental exploration for finding out the solution of a problem. As in the very beginning, I spoke to you that it is natural, men come across the various problems in life. What changes? Problems never ends, only the types of the problem changes. So, it is mental exploration for finding out the solution of a problem. See, thinking is skilled work. It is not true that we are naturally endowed with the ability to think clearly and logically without learning how or without practicing. Through this picture, I just want to explain to you that it is not enough to make you able to think clearly. It is also essential to learn how to apply that knowledge, that thinking skills in solving the problem, because in one situation you cannot use the same answer, same solutions. As the situation changes, your method of solving the problem will definitely change. What are the steps in thinking? Presence of a problem. See, when we want to solve a problem, what happens? In thinking process, first there arises a problem. When problem arises, what happens? Naturally, human being will get stressed, will be frustrated, because no one wants problem in the life, but problem come across. So, after the presence of problem, what happens? Definitely individual will try to solve the problem, will want to have the solution of that problems, and for solving that problem different ideas will occur in the mind of the learner. Various ideas will come across in the mind, but the individual who is facing the problem will do, he will select or she will select the ideas which are relevant or which are helpful in solving the problems of the individual. Then adjusting ideas to hypothetical situation. The situation is hypothetical, sometimes imaginative and sometimes real. Then the person who has collected various ideas from the various resources how to solve my problem will adjust those ideas to in that particular situation. Use of trial and error. What will happen? In trial and error, one just tries different things, different formulas in solving the problem. Activeness. What happens? As much as the person is active in solving the problem will be solved. So, in thinking process, when problem arises, the person will try to collect the various ideas, then will sort out which are the ideas which are helpful in solving the problem, and it is more of a trial and error, because in trial and error one person moves randomly, but here in the process of thinking the person is moving not haphazardly, rather systematically. Then the activeness is the last step in thinking process. One has to be active in solving the problem. As you are active and more active you are, more you will be able to think, more you will be able to solve the problems. See, in this picture, I have tried to show you so that our students can come to know how the various ideas are coming from the mind, and as there is a presence of problem, emergence of problem, then the person will naturally be stressed, will be frustrated, but want or will try to solve the problems. So, the various ideas will come in the mind, and very intelligently, by applying the intelligence capability, individual will try to see what are the ideas which are helpful in solving my problem, and what are the ideas which are to be rejected because they are not having any relevance in solving my problem. So, in this picture it shows how the problem arises and how individual tries to solve the problem, what are the steps. So, there are various types of thinking. First is the perceptual thinking. Individual perceive the things and just try to think how we perceive. For example, in a classroom, we have a memory that in a particular teacher, when I was sitting in a class, rebuked me on particular problem or particular issue, or not understanding the issue. Then after passing out from that college, from that school, from that institution, after a long time you come across that teacher in the marketplace, then at the same moment as you see that teacher, those maybe unpleasant memory will come across in your mind as soon as you perceive that person. Then the imaginative thinking, thinking, reasoning and imagination, they are also related. As we think, we sometimes imagine, because sometimes our thinking is logical and sometimes imaginative. Imagination is also very important. Suppose painter is making some painting, and a poet is writing some poems or writing some songs, and imagination is very important, because if you are free to imagine, only then your heart can write something, because heart and brain, they have to cooperate each other, they have to go together. Our brain gives the direction, and then we write or we paint or whatever field we are performing some activity. So, imaginative thinking is the another type of thinking. Then conceptual thinking, there is a perceptual thinking at early period. When child is grown up, then concepts are developed. After the concept formation, the children ask why and how aspect, because when a child is small, you ask don't do this and do this, will obey. But as soon as child is grown up and turn into adolescent period, then the question of how and why starts. Why I should do this, why I should not this thing. So, these are the concepts, or regarding any issues, child is able to make the concepts. The third type is the conceptual thinking, because here the concepts of the individuals are formed. They are not following the things blindly as we are perceived, we have perceived, or as we are told by the parents, as we are told by the teachers. Rather, we have our own concepts. We may be having different ideas from our parents or teachers. The other day, I asked my daughter, I like this thing, I like this discipline, you must study. Then very abruptly my daughter replied, why should I fulfill your dreams? I have my own dreams, I have my own concepts. I said, I realized, yes, okay, you have your own concepts. So, with this example, I want to tell you that the third type is the conceptual thinking. Then the logical thinking. This is the highest level of thinking. Here, individual has developed his logical thinking. He can make the logic, make the reasons, make the questions that why I should do this and why I should not do this. So, in this type of logical thinking, one applies the intelligence power and tries to solve the problem which come across. Then the convergent thinking. Convergent thinking is like when we apply our intelligence, because it has only one correct answer. When you follow or you give that answer, then it is your convergent thinking. And next is the divergent thinking. In divergent thinking, the more the answers, the more the creativity. In creativity also, we say if there is divergent thinking among the learners, then the creativity will germinate, otherwise not, because the convergent thinking, which I have said now, this leads to your intelligence power. This is related to your intellect only, but in divergent thinking, it is related to creativity. If we want that a writer should write different novels and different poems and songs, and the artist should paint different pictures, then in that case we need divergent thinking. If our students are sitting in the class in a fearful mood, they are scared by the teacher, they cannot give their original ideas, because divergent thinking is consist of flexibility, originality and fluency. Flexibility is, it refers to when one individual can shift one approach to another approach, that is what we mean by flexibility. Then originality means when one individual is able to give novel ideas, new association, new things, new concepts. And the fluency is number of ideas. Head is held high when the mind is without fear, it is all the time said. So if your students, if your children at home or in the class are sitting in a timid mood, they are afraid of you, that you may not rebuke the child on giving his or her new ideas, then divergent thinking cannot take place and creativity cannot come out. So if you want that your children, your students may be creative, may turn out as a creative individual, then you have to give them a freedom, because it is said that freedom is the first condition of the creativity. But students or the children have to mind it that this freedom should not turn out in indiscipline. There is a hairline difference in freedom and indiscipline. If your freedom is exploited, you give your freedom to your students, your children, and they exploit that thing, then it will turn out in indiscipline. So mind it that the divergent thinking leads to creativity, which consists of flexibility, originality and fluency. And further, I want to differentiate between convergent thinking and divergent thinking, because both are essential, both are important. The convergent thinking relates to intelligence, and the divergent thinking relates to creativity. So both are essential, and it is very important for all of us to know what is the difference and how they are related, because both of the type of the thinking, they are essential and they are important, significant, and they are related. They have their own significant role in our day-to-day life activities. See, first in detail I am taking the convergent thinking. When the thoughts are uncreative, it means convergent thinking. For example, teacher has told you that this is the one single answer of this problem, of this query, and when the students learn that thing by using the intellect, by using the intelligence ability, and gives them that one answer only, then it means it is the convergent thinking. It produces one single answer because only one single answer is given by the teacher, and learners have to produce that one answer only. That we can say it is the convergent thinking. Has one commonly accepted answer. You are not supposed to move from that. So it means definitely, which I have asked told you about the convergent regarding the divergent thinking, then if you give the only one accepted answer, then creativity cannot take place, it takes to intelligence. It is rigid and stereotyped. How it is rigid? Because teacher has told you, or you have come across in the textbook, that this is only one answer. It means it is the rigid and stereotyped and mechanically operated. Moreover, it is stimulus bound, because you give the stimulus and the children are giving the answer. It is measured by means of intelligence. See how the psychologists are great. The intelligence or the intellect which we cannot see by that this is the table or this is the pen, but even then the thing which is abstract, which cannot be seen, they have gone to the extent that they can measure the intelligence, that this person is having 90 IQ or 140 or 50 or 70 maybe. So, how great are the psychologists? The things which cannot be seen like intelligence, they have gone to the extent of measuring that capability, and it is known as rational thinking. Convergent thinking is rational thinking, because I have in the very beginning said that it is very important to think and reason and to imagine to solve the problems in the life in day to day activities. So, rational thinking is also important, but rational thinking leads to convergent thinking, and the next is the divergent thinking. As I have spoken to you right now, that as the convergent thinking takes you towards intelligence, divergent thinking takes you to creativity. Creative thought means divergent thinking. You ask the student that this is the problem, and as many as answers you can give, please give, because no answer is wrong and no answer is right. The more the answers, more the creativity. So, divergent thinking takes place when you give freedom to your children, when you give freedom to your students. If you say, no, this is the answer which is given by me, this is the answer which has been given in the textbook, you are to adhere to that, and if you give answer different to it, then you give rebuke to your students, you punish them, then the creativity cannot take place. So, creative thought means divergent thinking. It produces variety of responses. You ask the students, give as many responses as you can, because the more the answers, the more the responses, the more the creativity. So, in divergent thinking, more answers are accepted, because in the very beginning you have told your students or children that no answer is right and no answer is wrong, not commonly accepted answer, because you in convergent thinking, like you have given one answer, in divergent thinking you do not give one answer that you are adhere to it. So, there is no common accepted answer. It is novel, exploratory and venturesome. You give freedom to your children and they give new answers. So, if the answer or the idea does not appeal to you, you are not supposed to rebuke your child, your student, no, it cannot be the right answer. In a very polite and dignified manner, you as a parent and you as a teacher can say, oh no, the idea can be different one, so that the students are motivated to think in another way. It is exploratory. Ask them to explore their self, ask them to find the answer their self, because right now I have spoken to you that whenever in the lifespan problems come across, you as a parent and you as a teacher cannot hold all the time fingers of your child and to tell them this, you should do this. The problems come across as soon as you move in this society in day to day life. It is stimulus free. You do not give stimulus, as in convergent thinking we have seen that it is stimulus bound, but here it is stimulus free. It is measured by means of novelty, flexibility and originality. There are so many tests given by Torrance especially, that you give that test and you try to measure the ideas of novel, how many novel ideas has been given by individual, how it was flexible, how many ideas given by the learner. There are so many examples in the test given by a famous psychologist, that is Mehdi and Bakar, a famous test. There are very different examples, like you motivate the learners to imagine. There are examples like this कि अगर स्कूल के पंख होते तो क्या होता, आपको पंख लगे होते तो क्या होता. Like these are the various different questions which force students to imagine. So, this way when they imagine, they find it interesting and you tell them that what can be the answer. It is your own choice. Teacher cannot say that this is the right answer or this is the wrong answer. Then this way, in divergent thinking, we try to know how many novel ideas, original ideas and flexible ideas are given by the learners. So, this way in divergent thinking, when we give freedom to the learners, they imagine their self, and sometimes those images help the learners, help the individual to solve the problems, because if we tell them that this is the only answer, then if we give them hypothetical situation ki if problems arises like this, what will you do? So this way in convergent thinking we cannot help them to think in new way, but in divergent thinking we give them hypothetical situation ki suppose a problem is like this. We give a problem ki there was a class and a one student behave in a not dignified or accepted manner with the teacher, and teacher in that situation did this thing or solve the problem in this method. Had you been there in that class as a teacher, what would you have do? In this manner you just give the hypothetical situation कि एक teacher ने वहाँ ऐसा किया, आप वहाँ होते तो क्या करते? In this way there is no correct answer and there is no wrong answer. So this way the divergent thinking or the logical thinking helps the learner to solve the problems by giving the hypothetical situation. Then tools of thinking. What are the tools of thinking? First is the percept. Percept helps us how to solve the problems. Then the images. Images are formed in our mind in the manner of our past experiences, our happiness, feeling of joy, feeling of sorrowness, or pleasant experiences, unpleasant experiences. So these kind of images, they have their grip in our mind, and when we have a problem, those images in the form of past experiences being combined with the present experiences help us to solve the problem in the future. So this way these images are like as a tool, because we have what God has made us in our mind a greatest computer. So many images are formed here, so it's had a great memory, it has a span of memory. So we try to solve the problems by using the percepts, by using the images, and then the concepts. As earlier I told you that first layer is of perceptual level, then the second is the conceptual level. When a child is small, child perceives the things as is told by the teachers or by elders or stakeholders or the teachers. But as soon as the child is grown up as an adult, tries to put the question of what, how and why should I follow this thing, because he has his own concepts. So these concept formation help the individual to solve the problem. Then symbols. Symbols are like tools to understand the things, to develop our thinking. Suppose you are driving a car and you see a board where a picture is shown on the board, a child is carrying a bag. So you at the very moment as you see the picture, see the board, you come to know that it means this symbol is to show you, tell you that the school is nearby, please drive slow. So these symbols or the red light or the green light on the traffic signals, they just convey the language in a very small symbols. Then the formula. Formulas are mostly used in the subject of mathematics or the chemistry. Symbols, when we use those formulas in arithmetic or chemistry, moreover it saves the time and energy and just convey the message in a short time. So this way these are the tools. Now I would like to share with you what are the factors which influence thinking. First is the attention and interest. If you remember, in our last lecture I spoke to you how the interest and attention are very important in our life. So today I want to tell you that attention and interest, they make us focus to think well. Suppose we are solving a problem. If any individual is having interest and attention in that particular topic, then definitely will think in a fine manner which is required and will be able to solve the problem. Then the strong motivation. This is our motivation which makes us to think, how to reason, how to imagine and how to solve the problem. Then alertness and flexibility. For learning is both way. If teacher is teaching, students have to be active. These days it is not teacher centered. Our teaching learning process is both way rather tripolar process. Students also have to be alert. When the individual, when any learner is alert, then the thinking will be influenced in a better manner. Then the flexibility, as I have told you right now, flexibility refers to when one individual shifts one approach to another approach, which is flexibility. So when we are having a flexible approach, we are able to think. We should not be rigid in any concepts, in any idea regarding any issue. There must be a flexible approach, because according to situation, according to time, according to the demand of the time, we have to be flexible, we have to change our concepts. This next factor is the intelligence. This is our own intelligence which make us able to think, because thinking skill is very much required to develop on the part of the individual. Individual himself is can also contribute, is also liable to think, and as well as the responsibility of the teachers and parents. Then the time limit. This is the time limit which makes us to think. Suppose we know that we have to move forward in a meticulous manner. This is the time, and in this time period I have to manage my whole schedule. So the person will think in that manner. Then the incubation. Sometimes when a person is involved in solving the problem and answer does not come after the great effort, then at that period what does the individual do? Will leave the problem and that problem, and will try to involve in the another problem. Free from emotions. This is very important. You know, when you are emotional, when you are sentimental, then you are not able to sometimes think. One should be free from emotions. For example, if emotion of anger, you are in an angry mood, then you won't be able to think well. That's why it is suggested most of the time, when you are angry, count 10. By the time you count 10, then the anger will be subsided. So this way you can think. Then free from superstitions and prejudices. Sometimes we make so many superstitions and prejudices which make us divert to think well, which is required in day-to-day circumstances. So we should make efforts that our students, our children should be away from superstitions and prejudices, because these are the greatest obstacle in our progress, in our thinking capability. So we have to see ourselves also that we should be free from superstitions and prejudices. The knowledge of language. Language also play a very important part, because if we have a language, we need language always to think, because ideas does not take place in vacuum. We need some knowledge, and the knowledge of concepts. If we have our own concepts regarding any issue, then we can think well. Then contact with the society. Man is not an oak tree who can live alone. We live in the society. We want to interact with the people. When we interact with the people, we have experiences, sometimes bad, sometimes good. So these good or bad experiences make us able to think and to reason. Then on the basis of those interaction in the society, on the basis of those experiences, we think, we reason out, we develop our logical thinking, and we try to solve the problems. As in the very beginning I said that it is natural that in life problems never ends, but the types of the problem changes. So we should not be frustrated, we should not be stressed when the problems come across. When you do something, only then the problems will come across. If you do not do anything, then the problem will never occur. So it means when problems comes, it means that you are doing something, you are on the way of progress, and problems comes. So you have to apply your logical thinking, your mind, your imagination on the basis of percepts, on the basis of images, that how can I solve this problem. Then language and thinking, how language and thinking are related, because how the ideas come in our mind on the basis of language. So, we need language to think. These expression of thought, when ideas come in our mind on any issue and we want to express, definitely we need a language. By using a good language, we make the another person our friend, and at the same time by using bad words, we can make the person enemy. So, for expression of thought, expression of concepts, we need a language, and language should be dignified, which appeals to the other persons also who is our listener. Means of communication, language is essential to communicate our ideas. Suppose we have thought of a problem, we have thought of some ideas, but we want to express, we want to share with other person in the society. As right now I have said that we interact with the society, we are not an oak tree who can live alone. We want to share our pleasant experience with our friends in the society, with our relatives. So, for means of communication, we need a language. Then formation of concepts, how the concepts are framed in our mind, they are framed on the basis of language. We need some words, maybe any language, then aid to thought. Language is the aid to thought. When ideas come in the mind, they need language to write, to share, to speak. Then aid to attention. Attention, in the previous lecture, we discussed a lot about the attention. How do a student get attentive? How any individual becomes more attentive towards the task he or she is performing when gives interest to that particular activity. And when we are attentive, when we are interested in anything, definitely we need a language to share, to tell, because in that session I asked how we come to know about the interest of the individual, the expressed interest, manifest interest, and inferred from the test. So, this way we need a language to know about one's interest or anything. So, language plays its important part. Aid to recall. We recall something, we recall our past experiences, our concepts. So, sharing that, or to share that thing, or to teach our students in the classroom, or to share our ideas with our friends in our peer group or anyone in the society, we need language. Language and thought develop together. How the ideas come in our mind? Definitely through some language, maybe any language. I take you to Pashan Yug, when there was no language, when human being used to express ideas by beating of drums and by gestures, then was tired of these things and tried to invent the language. So, language is very important because the ideas come in our mind with the language. Language and thinking, language and thought, they move together in our mind. Then children should be taught how to think and not what to think. See, it's a very important term. Children should be taught how to think, not what to think. Methodology, what is right and what is wrong, because in the beginning I spoke to you that we are differentiated by the animals with the thinking power, thinking skill. We have been endowed by God with the power of thinking, power of intelligence. So, this is our liability as a parents and as a teacher to teach our students, our learner, how to think, how to proceed, how to inculcate right values, how to inculcate sanskar among our children, what to think and how to proceed, how we can develop their thinking skills. So, this is very important to understand by the teachers and by the parents and by the stakeholders itself, that teach the learners, teach the students how to think. Then the best teachers are those who equip students to think for themselves. Sometimes we do not think. So, this is important to think for themselves what is right and what is wrong. Sometimes we follow blindly the others and we do not apply our mind. So, this is our duty as a teacher to teach our learners, our students how to think for themselves, because it is said that If you are happy, only then you can spread happiness. If you can solve your problems, only then you can solve the problems of the others. Otherwise, you will develop a habit to telling all the time your problems to the other person, and what will happen, you will develop a habit of all the time grumbling, and if you develop a habit of grumbling all the time, people will run away from you. Oh, he has come, oh, she has come, and will grumble all the time. So leave that habit and think, try to think how to remain happy and how to spread happiness, to teach your students, your children how to think for themselves. Then education and thinking, how, this is very important, how a teacher can teach the students to think. First is the knowledge of subjects. For example, you as a teacher is having the knowledge of the subjects, then you can teach your students to think well. Then motivation, it is the motivation of the teacher which makes the students ready to think, ready to learn. Then responsibilities, if you give responsibility to your children, to your students, then they will be able to think. Discussion is very important. Discussion methodology is good. Always try to have discussion in the classroom, in the home, or wherever you come across in a party, because when there is a discussion, everyone has a right, everyone is motivated to express his or her own ideas. This way, through having a discussion method, we are forcing or we are motivating the children to think and to reason out. So, and this way the language development is also possible, because to communicate our ideas, to share our ideas, to move with the other person, to interact the other person in the society, we need language, and language will be developed, because sometimes we find that the students are shy or introverts. So in a discussion method, when they sit in a group and they express their ideas, their language will be developed, their thinking skill will be developed, and they will learn to give the logical thinking. They can prove their ideas in a discussion, that this is the logic behind my argument, so I feel this can be the right answer. This way one is able to discuss, and the language and the thinking is developed. Then see, education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. Albert Einstein has said, this is very important to understand by everyone. Again I am repeating, education is not the learning of facts. It is not that you remember all the historical facts and you just mark out, but mind should be trained to think, because problem never ends, types of problem keeps on changing. So if you have trained your mind, you have trained the mind of the youngsters, they will think what will be the right method or right decision in that particular problem. So please remember it. It should be remembered by the students, by the teachers, and by the parents, that Albert Einstein has said very rightly that we have to train the mind to think, how to think in a positive manner. Now I am coming to the reasoning. In the beginning I have said that thinking and reasoning, they are independent but they are interrelated. When one is able to think, will able to reason out. You know, man's life is full of problems for which he has no ready-made formula or solution. He requires reasoning before he can solve the problem. Reasoning is the most complex form of adjustment of which human beings are capable. It is the highest form of productive thinking that needs a well organized brain. Mind it when I have said a well organized brain, meaning by we should not just put the ideas in our brain in a haphazard manner, in a random manner. Rather, we should be clear about the ideas, and we should read or collect the ideas even in our mind in a systematic manner, so that it is not haphazard, it is not unsystematic, because it needs a well organized brain. If our ideas in our brain are in a well organized manner, then we will be able to reason out and we will be able to solve the problem. How can we define the reasoning? According to Greece, reasoning activity is implicit activity that involves the manipulation of symbols of one type or another, and according to Mayer, reasoning is productive thinking in which previous experiences are organized or combined in new ways to solve a problem. And one has said reasoning is combining of past experiences in order to solve a problem which cannot be solved by mere reproduction of earlier solution, meaning by, as I have said earlier, that you cannot solve every problem with the same method, because situations may be changed, learner target group may be changed, your circumstances may be changed. So, you cannot solve the same problem or different problems with the same method. You have to reproduce the problem in a different manner. So, we see critical thinking, how we develop the critical thinking to think. Critical thinking is not criticizing, rather positive side, and the negative side may be some lacuna, may be some delimitations, as we have discussed right now, that train our mind to think well, not to remember the facts. I am sorry, these days our education system is sometimes like this, that the students just cram the things and mug out in the examination and without real knowledge. And what is the drawback of this system, that they are not able to learn its practical utility. They just theoretically they learn it, they mug up, and they just pass out the examination, they grab the degree, but when they go in the interview or in the real life situation, they are not able to tell its utility. So, this way they are not selected, and they say that I have not been selected. Why you have not been selected? Because you do not know how to apply that theory which you have learned in the classes in the day to day life. So, just train your mind to think well, then reason out. Characteristics of reasoning, it is a typical thinking in a different manner than the mental exploration and goal oriented. When how we reason, when goal is clear to us, we reason well. If goal is not clear, we cannot reason out, and our mind do not explore new things. We cannot think in a different typical manner. It is different from trial and error. It is not only trial and error. In trial and error, one moves in a random manner, but in the reasoning, one moves, one tries which can be the right thing, how I should move. It is a cognitive tendency to move. Then see, reflection, pay attention to the ladders in your head. This picture I am trying to explain that become more aware of your own thinking and reasoning. You must be aware. Sometimes very blindly, randomly we follow the other person's argument and we do not know what we are saying, what we are thinking. Slow your thinking down. Step by step you must go. Open up your thinking. You must think what I am saying, what I am doing, and for what is the purpose. You know, we must think first why I am speaking, why I am doing, and reason out. You must reason out to yourself why I am doing these things. Our mental models shape how we behave. Sometime we come across a person who is not behaving in a dignified manner, then definitely as a learner of psychology or being in the field of education, we come to infer that the person may be having some difficulty in the mind or in the day to day life, may be having some problem, that is why not behaving in a particular manner. Experts have the greatest difficulty. I am coming steps in reasoning. A felt difficulty, how the mind reason out. We have discussed thinking, how mind reason out, a felt difficulty. In the beginning, our difficulty comes across. When difficulty arises, our mind try to locate and define difficulty, from where the difficulty came out and what type of difficulty I am facing. And after locating, one tries to evaluate and organize information. When the problems comes, we try to solve the problem, we try to gather the data from the various sources, and then we try to recollect or the select from that data which is relevant to solve my problem. We try to organize that information, then we try to discover relationship and formulating hypothesis. You know, hypothesis is a tentative solution. We try to evaluate our hypothesis, whether we have made the correct hypothesis or not, whether there is some relationship between these two factors. Suppose we want to see see the relationship between aptitude and interest of the learner. So, we make a hypothetical situation and we try to test this hypothesis, and we evaluate the hypothesis, we apply the solution. Sometime we see that our data or our sample is not correct. Suppose you are trying to make a case study on a particular child, and you try to gather the information from the various sources, and randomly you select 10 people. From those 10 people you try to collect the information of that particular child. In that case, sometime your sample may be wrong. How may be possible? Those 10 members you have selected may be a very close friend of that person. They will give goody report, and in the another situation they may not be in contact, they may not be having knowledge about it, or maybe enemy, or maybe not in good relation, they may good report. So, in that case our sample is not correct. So, this way our hypothesis, our result will be wrong, and we cannot apply the solution. So, this way we reason out. See in this picture how the question comes in the mind, then one person is thinking and the answering, then types of reasoning, how reasoning comes out. First is the deductive reasoning. In deductive reasoning, we try to infer or reach from general to particular, and in inductive reasoning, we try to come from particular to general, and in analogical thinking, we try to come from particular fact to particular conclusion. Then how to encourage high level thinking, as by giving the examples of Albert Einstein, I have tried to aware all the stakeholders and students that encourage high level thinking. We must think what is wrong and what is right, because man is endowed with the power of thinking by the God. This is the greatest gift we have been given by God, that we can think. Then training reasoning, very important. How can we train our learners to reason out familiarity with the life problems? We should try that they must be familiar with the problems so that they can reason out. If they are not familiar with the problems, they are not aware with the problems, they cannot reason out. So, when I am talking about training reasoning, it becomes the duty of the teacher to make the students aware about that problem. In that case, they can think, they can reason out. Then solution of problems of practical utility, they must be able to solve out the problems which is of practical use. As right now I have said कि sometime in our education system the students learn the theory and they are not able to put that theory into practical utility. Then adequate knowledge, we have to take care of that. Adequate knowledge should be given to the students in the class so that they can reason out. Then the discussion is a very important method. In discussion we give the chance to express their ideas, presenting new problems. We must try to give a different hypothetical problems to students and ask, if such kind of problem arises, what will you do? For example, if we are teaching the topic in the class of bank, instead of telling the uses of bank and proceeding of bank, you take the students to the banks and show them how the proceedings is going on. So, different problems, by giving different problems, we ask them how to solve problems. The power of critical thinking is greatest. So, in this session, I hope it is clear to you what is the importance of thinking, how thinking is related to reasoning, and how as Albert Einstein has said, train your mind to think. So, students must learn how to think in a proper manner, and how it becomes the liability or responsibility of the teachers to train the mind of the youngsters in the classroom, to shape their mind, to make their future, and as well as the duty of the parents, give free opportunity to the children so that they can think well and decide what is right and what is wrong, and can decide or think about their future.
With this note, thank you ma'am, thank you so very much for giving us a deep thought on thinking and reasoning, explaining their meaning as well as explaining the interconnection between thinking and reasoning. Now the question arises, could we connect imagination to thinking?
Yes, there are two types of classification, like one is imaginative thinking and other is the logical thinking. Both thinking are essential because when one thinks, one reason out and can imagine about the solution of the problem, this can be the solution of the problems, and out of those solution one can select the best answers.
How could we motivate children to think and find the solution to the problems themselves?
Fine, you have raised a very important question. I'm sorry, the students these time, as they are depending more on technology, they do not go to the library. They must visit the library, and if they are using the technology, they must use them according to their from their educational point of view, and they must the teacher must give them hypothetical situations so that they can think their own way and original thinking can be developed. So give them some freedom for original ideas.
Could we say that our present educational system is providing for appropriate pathway towards thinking skills?
I always feel, suppose there is a question of 20 marks, at least for 15 marks they can learn from the textbook which is told by the teachers or which is written in textbooks. At least for 5 marks there should be a provision. I personally feel as a teacher that there should be a provision that what do you think, this type of question, so that they their self can think, okay, this can be the reason out or the solution from my side. This way students can learn to think their self and originality in ideas will come.
Can we say that all the students who are engaged in the extracurricular activities tend to have better thinking and reasoning ability?
Because earlier I have told you, then when we have discussion in the peer group or in the classrooms or anywhere we are sitting, then by the discussion method or we are engaged in co-curricular activities, we have the chance to interact with the society members, and that way we can reason out and we can think well, and we can say that this can be the answer from my side.
Could we motivate the children to think, then have the ability to analyze, then ultimately and automatically their reasoning skill would enhance?
Yes, you are right. Definitely, when they think, they will reason, they will analyze, they will take the decision, and this way the logical thinking, which is the highest level of thinking, will come out, or we sometimes call it as reflective thinking. This is the highest order skill. This we advise at the senior level.
All these skills adopted by the students at the very early stage, I believe that help them throughout their life. Some students, although they are not very studious, but their reasoning and analytical skills helps them to get a better job and to have a better position in the society. And
yes, because it is not enough to have the knowledge of the content, rather how you think or you apply that knowledge which you have studied. So you are right, sometimes students are studious, they secure good marks, but they do not get job, and sometimes the other children, other candidates who have bent of mind and thinking and reasoning, they get better opportunities. So this is very important that students must realize that they develop the thinking skills so that their future is bright.
Definitely the students' future would be going to bright if you would be listening to us, you would be connecting to us from time to time, so that it becomes easier for you to open the channels of your mind, work hard, and every day is your day. With this note, we take your leave. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much for your presence over here today. Thank you.
I'm thankful to you, and I'm thankful to the listeners also.
Thank you.